Okay, my friends, welcome aboard. Today we're going to start shooting the sage. This bow is made out of Osage orange. It's got a nice knot in there. And sometimes I call it red. It's kind of red. Or the sage, because it's a wise old bow. It's 40 pounds. I recently coated it with urethane. Can you see how it twinkles and shines? It's really a nice finish. So anyhow, that's what we're going to shoot. Also, you'll notice that I've got 4 nocks here. Well, I was shooting the bow, and I had another one down there, and I found I was shooting high, so I put another nock. I found I was shooting high, put another nock. When I got up to this upper nock here, I'm shooting right on. So that's how I find the correct elevation for my nocking point, is simply by putting a series of nocks and shoot from each one until I find one that works. So that's what we're going to do bow-wise. Also, I had to make up some new arrows. So these are Warrior 500s, 5.5-inch banana feathers on them, black carbon. I haven't painted them white yet. 125 grain points, and they're full length. They're full 30 inches long. Anyhow, that's about the equipment. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, my friends. I have at least 6 different ways of aiming, so I'm not going to show them all to you. I've done that in different movies. But just to refresh you, we have 2 ways of aiming. One is direct aiming, where you aim directly at the target, and the other is indirect aiming, where your arrow is not actually pointing at the target. Anyhow, one way would be to push the left forward. Now you see, when I push the left forward, the bow lines up to my eye, and now I come straight back to my eye. A similar way is pushing from close, and in pushing from close, you keep your hand back here, and that makes for a very short draw. So basically, we start way back, but once again, we simply push it straight out, and now we only have to come back a little tiny ways. So that's 2 ways of doing a direct aim. Then we have parallel aiming, where in the beginning, you're not aiming at the target. Now, in parallel aiming, the arrow points off to the side, and I know it looks on an angle to that camera because I looked at it from but this is actually looking straight. But anyhow, it'll look like it's on an angle to you, okay? But it goes down on the side. Now, when we get back, all we do is roll. You see how when I rolled, it went straight? So we stay parallel all the way back, and now we roll until it lines up. So that's a parallel draw with a roll. Now, the next way will also be to do a parallel draw, but we're going to use a waist swivel. So in this case now, again, we'll look at the target, we'll come right back to our anchor, and now rather than swiveling, we're simply going to move at the waist. You see? I did not move my hands or my arms or anything. I simply point it straight and then rotate it at the waist until I was on the target. Okay? So that's another way. Now, another very good way of doing a parallel draw is the sliding eye, the sliding eye draw. And in the sliding eye draw, again, we will start parallel, but we simply bring the whole thing. See how it's lined up? So we come back parallel and now move everything under the target, and that works very good. There's no anchor whatsoever, but that works really good. So that's another way. And the way that we're going to shoot today, though, is just off the knuckle. I'm going to put it up, and I'm going to put the target right up about that groove in my knuckle, and I'm just going to push the arrow forward and come back to my anchor. And my anchor these days is a very high anchor. Again, if I take my thumb and put it in my ear, my hand comes to there, right? So that's a near anchor, but I'm not sticking my thumb in there. But my hand will come to here, and that's it. So it's like that, and I will just be looking through the groove in my glove and shooting. Okay, so that's shooting off the knuckle. So that's a variety of ways of shooting. And now, I'll be back in a minute. We'll do it. Okay, my friends, let's take a couple of shots here. When I shoot this way and I'm aiming off my knuckle or off my hand, or the target is just in the window, how can you describe it, you know? But anyhow, nice. It really shoots accurately. All these 5 or 6 ways I just told you can hit the target pretty good. But this is as simple as it comes, I think, you know. I'm using a real high anchor. You know, getting my hand right up there like that, and I'm just looking for the spot. And that's that. But the idea is to put the target in the window, you know, right up in that spot, right up about there. So the arrow is over there. It's not even pointing at that target. You wouldn't think that it would hit the target, actually. But put your knuckle up there, push it on, come right back to your anchor, let everything relax. Bang, right in the center. Beautiful. That's the steps. That's the steps, right? Put the target right in there and push it on. Keeping it there. Nothing to it. Put the target in there, push it out. Get to that high anchor. It's a great sport, if you're great. Push it out, push it on, come back to your anchor, relax the hand, nice. Very important to have this hand relaxed. Also, look guys, more artwork. This is the sideways gap. This is the little bump on my glove. There's the arrow, not even pointing at the target. Can you see that? Not even pointing at the target. The target's over there, about halfway between that bump and the second knuckle. Yeah, really. I call it the sideways gap. You know, we all know about the gap where you put the tip below the target. Well, that's if you can aim straight at it. But with a bow like this, you can't. So, or unless you start doing all these other steps like I was showing you. But this works very good. Anyhow, back in a minute. Okay, guys. You know, there's a few drills that I think you should do every day. Every day you should take 10 or 20 shots like this. You don't have to do it a lot, but it will teach you a lot. That is to shoot without aiming. You know, so all I'm going to do is hold the bow, just hold the bow and look at the target and get it straight. Now if you do that, eventually you'll get used to the feel of the pressure in the bow without aiming. Just the feel. And you'll just do arrow alignment. Yeah, and it works pretty good. It'll let you get more fluid and just come to realize that it is a spring and that it can be shot in a variety of ways, but it's all off the fingertips. You can just feel when that goes straight. So you don't have to, you know, worry about being real accurate, but you can get real accurate doing this, believe it or not. But you just sort of, it's just a drill, that's all, a drill. Just to get used to the bow. Does no harm. And you can just sort of see, good. You know, it works fine. Anyhow, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, guys. Something that I find to be a very important spot is what I call the pivot point. And I don't think anybody talks about it very much other than myself. But there's a point I like to do a straight draw. I like to line the arrow up when it's coming back. Whether it's pointing at the target, even if it's parallel, I want it straight coming back. Okay? So there's a pivot point. Now watch. If I reach out and I pull back, see that? So if you reach out, it'll come back to a certain spot, and then the weight will just pull it in. It'll come back, and then the weight. That's the pivot point. At the pivot point, now you can draw straight. The pivot point is a very real spot. Now, when you're doing the parallel draw, there's still a pivot point. So when you're doing the parallel draw, you see, your arrow can be sort of pointing sort of towards the target, but it's the same thing. When it comes back 6 inches, now see, it's over there, and now it comes back straight. Okay, so even though it's a parallel draw and the arrow is not pointing at the target, we still have a pivot point, and we get that arrow to come back straight. Right? Comes back about 6 inches, now it goes straight, and now we draw all the way. And then we can shoot off our knuckle. So, pivot point. That's when it all lines up and you can draw straight. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, guys. I'm finding that these wooden bows shoot just fine. I don't think I can shoot a bow with fiberglass any better. Not really. It's got more to do with the shooter than the bow. That's right. So we can search for all these different ways of aiming. For instance, the reach out is a direct aim. The aim from close is a direct aim. The parallel and roll, it starts parallel but turns into direct aim. The swivel starts parallel but turns into straight aim. Off the knuckle never turns into straight aim. It's always off the knuckle, and the arrow is pointing a foot or so off to the right. So there's a combination of straight aim, or parallel and then straight aim, or just parallel. They all work when you can do them. And I'm telling you that you can do them, so practice them, and you'll find something that works for you. Mm-hmm. I haven't been working on my release at all, but I find that from this spot here, if I want, I can make one of those nice-looking releases, you know, like this thing, you know. But it's all about, you know, just relaxing that hand. You don't have to have a perfect style. You just have to have the pressure at 180 degrees when you let go. It's nice to have a pretty form. You know. Right? That looks nice. But hit the target is what's important. We always strive for perfection. But put it up, get it over that knuckle, push it on, come back until you get into that anchor, relax arm, and off she goes. Okay, boys, back in a minute. Okay, guys. It's good to hold your bow just like it was a branch and you were hanging from it, you know? Doesn't need any of these fancy things and point your finger. Howard Hill said, Uncle Howard said to hold the bow like you were holding a light suitcase. Also, a deep hook. It's good. Initiate the release with a little push, a little press forward. It gives the arrow a little direction. The movement of the hand throws the back of the arrow off, but the front can give that arrow a little direction towards the target. It's extremely important to be able to relax, especially your right arm and your right hand. Put the target in the window. Those are the kinds of things that you can do. I find that a high anchor is much better for me. I only shoot out to about 35 yards because mostly I just fool around at 3D. So a small gap is better. In other words, a high to the eye draw is better. You know, Horace Ford would anchor down on his chin, but he was shooting at 70, 90 yards. But I'm moving it up here, right by my ear and up here. But put the target in the window, push it on, come back to your anchor, just relax. Okay, so those are kind of steps, you know, that we're doing, right? Relaxed arm, fully stretched out, getting to our anchor, lining it up. Anyhow, back in a minute. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you this picture again. Now, I'm saying that the target is here. If the target is there, why not put it there before you even start? Why not start with it there? Then you only have to touch your anchor. I've made movies before, you know, a lot of this stuff is sort of repetition. I remember making a movie where I said, point the arrow right at the target and then just get behind it. Well, today I'm saying basically the same thing. We know that there's a sight picture. There is a sight picture. The target is in a certain spot. So put it there, and then you only have to touch your anchor. You know, if I push it on right there, the target is already there. Now I just have to come back to my anchor, and when I get back to my anchor, bang. That's why you can shoot so quick, because you're already on by the time you get back there. And you're only on because you know what your sight picture is. We're not aiming the arrow, we're aiming the target. We're putting the target in the sight picture. You know, just put it there. See, it's already there. You know, and now, what can you say? So I think that that's the simplest way to shoot, you know. And even as far as your stance, put the target there. Now take a step with your front and back foot, and it'll be there. It'll just be there every time you put it up. You know, it's not necessary to do all this standing this way, making sure your feet are at 45 degrees and all these kinds of things. Just put the target in the sight picture, take a front step, take a back step, and it will be there. Hold it there, come back until you get back to your anchor, and let her go. It's very important to realize that you have a sight picture. It's just like having a scope on a rifle. You just put the target wherever it has to be. For Kentucky windage, you know, it may not be on the crosshair, maybe it's over there. You put it over there and you'll hit it. So laugh, you know. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, or the easiest thing in the world to do. But we can sure make it hard for ourselves. Anyhow, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, guys, one of the things that we can talk about is the amount of concentration that it takes to shoot a bow. It takes a lot. You know, you can't just be looking around at the tip or at the string or at your hand. You really need to be looking at the target. Otherwise, you can't quite line up to it. It's very difficult not to look at the tip or the gap, these things, you know. But if you do, you'll be off. So it takes a lot of concentration. You know, and you can do your mind exercises, you know, where you look at the candle and you stare at the candle, and when your mind wanders off, you bring your mind back to the candle, and when your mind wanders off, you bring your mind back to the candle. Teach yourself concentration. But it's something that you need. You need to put that target right in the window in the beginning, and then just start coming back. Beauty. Beauty. So these are the simple things that you can do in the complicated art of archery. Put it in that window. Get it back. Relax. But that's what you do. Okay. So anyhow, we've been shooting this bow. It's nice and shiny and pretty bow. We've taken a few shots and said a few things. Don't forget that I want you to be aware of the sideways gap, and that there is a sight picture and a window, and that's where you put your target. You're just going to hold it stretched out, get to your anchor, relax that arm, see the target in the right spot, and shoot it. Anyhow, I think that's enough for tonight. And you can see that if you do those kinds of things, that, you know, you can get your hits. They're all right in there. Not aiming at the target at all. Arrow's pointing a foot or two off to the right. Anyhow, you guys have a good night. Have fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.